Hi, everyone. It's Craig. Welcome to Cutting the Crap with Shap. Thank you so much for checking it out. I am here with a former student. His name is Austin, and he is a great man. I had Austin years ago as a student, and when you hear his story today, you're going to be blown away because I'm so proud of just how far he's come. I mean, I'm a fitness guy. I've always have been, but when you hear his story, you're going to be inspired, motivated, and if you are thinking about getting into fitness, he's going to get you into fitness. If you already are into it, like especially the lifting piece, he's got a great story. So please consider subscribing, liking, sharing. That's how the channel grows. If you'd like to be on the podcast, obviously I'd love to have you as well. So without further ado, welcome, Austin. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm really excited to be here.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're here?
Yeah, so I think sometimes I'm kind of nervous to talk about myself. So if I talk about myself too much, just let me know. Just cut me off. Um, but yeah, I think that, it's kind of like birds of a feather. And I think that people with similar mindsets and similar growth patterns kind of just get along and click. And it's funny because a lot of people don't know. A lot of people don't are watching us aren't sure of how we met. Way back in high school, Shap was actually my gym teacher, my life fitness coach. So that's kind of how we met, and how kind of our paths began. But it was funny, like all along the way, a year would go by, I would check in, like, "Hey, Shap, how's it going?" And it's funny, we have a very similar mindset. I feel like, and a very similar kind of idea set, and we kind of bounce off ideas off each other. So I think that's something that's super cool about Shap. But yeah, so we met back when I was just a student in high school. I think I met him freshman year. And I remember being always kind of into fitness and always kind of dabbled in the idea of fitness, as many young men do. But I was always kind of unsure of myself. I was always kind of sure of like if I'm really cut out to do it. And I remember, like, even when I was younger, I was a chubby kid for a little bit. I was a very skinny kid for a little bit. And I remember people would tell me sometimes, like, well, maybe you're just not a runner. Or maybe you're not just you can't do pull-ups. Maybe you're just not, you're not built for that. And I was probably 15 or 16 the one time. And I kind of thought to myself, well, why not? Like why can't I be that? Or, these people who can just run marathons and run and run and run, like what really is stopping me? And it's like, it's not this metaphor. It is a little bit of a metaphorical question, but it's also a physical question. Do they have four legs and I only have two? No, we both have two legs. Are we built that much different? No. So it's like, well, screw it. Let's become a runner. Let's see how far I can push myself. Let's put every ounce of my being into this thing, and let's see how far I can really push myself, and let's see what's truly possible. And I remember it was probably like starting with just a mile. Just run a mile on a treadmill. If you can't do that, that's fine. Start with half a mile. If you can't start with half a mile, start with a quarter mile. If you can't do that, start with a 100-meter dash. And it's like people say that to themselves, and they start to believe this lie of, oh, I can't do it. It's like, well, you can do it. Maybe not to the extent that you want to do it right now, but you can do something. And it's all about taking these small steps all along the way. So I started it was like, a mile. Okay, next day, mile and a half, 2 miles, 2.5 miles, 3 miles. What about 5K? What about 5 miles? And by senior year, I think it was junior year, getting the senior year, I started to prepare for what they called Spartan races and Tough Mudders and stuff like that. And they were about 12 miles in length. And then right after I graduated, I actually ran a full marathon. So that's 26.2 miles. And it was like this big shock to me that I proved in my mind, not necessarily what's impossible in the world, but in my own mind, what was impossible to me, and the limiting beliefs I had before I completely shattered them. And it's something truly, truly empowering once you can do that, once you can take that step, and once it's like, well, I can shape my reality. I can build something out of myself. I can change who I am. And I'm not a victim of my circumstances anymore. I can craft my own future if I work hard enough and if I put that work in. Continue on with my fitness journey. I was kind of shifting gears. I was a little bit too skinny. I always want to be more of like a bodybuilder type build, be more strong, be more powerful. So I was always into lifting, but I kind of put my focus on running for a little bit there. I think around 20, I started getting the powerlifting. I did my first meet when I was either 19 or 20. And I totaled, for those that don't know powerlifting, it's a combination of your squat, your bench, and your deadlift. How strong can you be with all of those lifts put together? So my first meet, I think I squatted 425. I benched 280, and I deadlifted like 505 or 515, right around there, right around those numbers. And that was a big step right there along the way too, because it was like deadlifting 500 pounds. Like that's impossible. Like that's a quarter of a ton right there. And I remember just being so nervous at the meet. And it was like, it was one of those things that when you plunge yourself into uncertainty, when you plunge yourself into those situations, you're going to grow as a person. And did that for many, many years. I've been basically all around the country to the Midwest, um, doing these competitions, doing these meets, and I was ready for it. And should take a back step here. I remember having one competition out in Ohio. And for those who are familiar with fitness, there's a big fitness expo in Ohio called the Arnold, or the Arnold Fitness Expo. So I competed out there. And all along the way, this story could go on for hours here, but the whole journey of leading up to the Arnold, I faced so much adversity in my life and so much like I remember driving out there. My mom was having open heart surgery at the time, and the dates kind of lined up. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to do this competition. I'm going to find her, or link up with her, make sure she's all right for the surgery. And it's not that I don't trust surgeons, but it's like, hey, everyone's got to die at some point. And yeah, it's you kind of face these realities, and if surgery doesn't go right, there's more of a chance that she might not make it than tomorrow. Once the surgery's over, she's much more likely to survive. So it's like, make this one count. I had in my head, just make this meet count, make this count, because at the end of the day, your parents are always going to love you, but it's like when they can see you accomplish something, it's they love you that much more. Um, but yeah, they want you to do stuff with your life. So she was having that surgery. I remember driving through Wyoming. I didn't think twice about it. It's February, and this crazy snowstorm hit, and I couldn't. I got stuck in my car. I slipped in my car. It was like a blizzard, and people will like look at me like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I got to do this competition. I got to make it there."
Oh.
Somehow, I finally make this competition. It was insane. I'll put pictures up some point, and I totaled 1975. So I squatted. Yeah, it was 695 my squat, 505 bench, and then 775 deadlifts. And that was a huge. It's like, and at the time, it was top 1,000 people who have ever powerlifted any weight class ever. And I remember just like through all that adversity and all that stress I had, I still managed to pull it off. And that was another, again, limiting belief where it's like, sometimes you think that things have to be perfect. I can only do this on a perfect day. But when you're able to draw that out of you with all that all that stuff that comes your way, you can do it too. And then finally, to conclude my not conclude my fitness journey, but where I am today, I was looking for a little bit of a change up, and I really want to do some bodybuilding because you can be a strong powerlifter, but sometimes you're a little more fluffy. I want to be shredded. I want to be one of those guys on stage that have the hollow cheeks that starve themselves for 4 weeks. And so I'm like, I'm gonna do a bodybuilding show. And a lot of people told me I couldn't do it. I was too big. I was a powerlifter. Powerlifters can't bodybuild, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, I'm gonna prove all these people wrong. Another limiting belief that I had on myself. It's like, can I even do this? Am I disciplined enough to do this? Am I brave enough and confident enough to step up on stage wearing almost nothing and have, yeah, it's a big thing. That I was a very, very shy kid, even a shy adult too. And I remember dieting and I mean, this too, you've been through a lot of it. Just every little step along the way, and you're so depleted by the end of it. And like, just see it through. And I remember I tell people too, if you're interested in doing a show, really think about carefully, because it's a lot of work. But if you want to do it, you discover things about yourself physically that you've never seen before, obviously because you're cutting that weight. But more importantly, you discover stuff about you mentally that you've never seen before. And it's kind of like, who are you really? When push comes to shove, who are you really? When you're at 800 calories for the day and literally zero carbs, and you wake up at 5 a.m. and you text your coach, and your coach goes, "Oh yeah, do 2 hours of cardio today," and you're like, "Oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to make it." At that point, do you crumble, or do you step up and face that verse and face that challenge? And I learned that, and it's the truth. If you don't know who you are really, you don't know who you are deep down. You think you know who you are, but you don't. Until you put yourself in those situations, you don't learn who you are. And I learned that, I can do this stuff. I can put myself out there. I can do these challenges, and I can make this happen. And that's exactly what happened. I had no intention of winning the show, but I was just, let me just do it. Let me just see this through, see if I can do it. And I remember just being so starved. My cheeks were so hollow, and people were coming up to me that I never met before. Like, "Are you okay? Like, you look like you're gonna pass out." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm doing a bodybuilding show. I'll be all right." And somehow I won the show, and it was again another thing that I wasn't sure if I could do, but I somehow managed to pull it off. I somehow managed to do it. So I think that the fitness journey as a whole, and there are some people that base a little too much off competitions, in my opinion. But I think that a lot of things. So the gym isn't everything. If you have a child at home and they have a baseball game, it's like, yeah, go to your son's baseball game. You don't have to make this gym session. But a lot of things can be tied back to the gym. Are you disciplined? Are you focused? Are you committed? Are you willing to do what it takes to achieve those goals? So I think that's, it's like you look at these character development traits and they kind of they start to align with certain things. I think that fitness journey along the way has been what's built my character along the way. And I think that there's a lot of lessons that can be learned. And a lot of people look up to me. And it's a really weird thing because like I'd never I think that it was I always looked up to other people. I didn't really think of myself as anybody to be like, oh, Mister, here I am, and I can teach other people. But people started to look up to me too. So I think that more importantly, there's a transition that happens along the way, and there's something very, very cool that happens along the way. You stop lifting for people above you. When you're younger and new in the sport, you lift because I want to look like Ronnie Coleman. I want to look like Jay Cutler. When you do something and people you've never met before message you, dude, I'm so proud of you. You know, you're an inspiration to me. Never met these people before in my life. They just follow me on Instagram. It's like now I live for those people. Now I live for the people above me that are looking at me to say, oh, if he did it, now I can do it too. If I saw my friend diet and cut weight like that, now I know that I can do it too. So that's something that has based my decision making, my motivation along the way there too.
I love that, Austin. What a great story. And I think one of the things that's difficult, and before you got on, I was just reading some of your stuff. I think what's very daunting for people. Well, I don't think I know it because I've been teaching for forever. I think what is so daunting for people is, they see other people with incredible successes and they see somebody who looks great. And I'm not talking about just in the fitness journey. I'm talking about just in life in general. And they cannot envision themselves being there. Like, and just because you did it, they don't think they can do it. And I'll often say, like, it's all about baby steps. It's all about like taking those small steps. And instead of thinking, oh, I want to be Mr. Olympia, think, hey, I got to pick up a weight, because there's got to be that initial journey that kind of gets us started. And that's really hard for people. And again, not just in the wellness industry, in life in general. Like being able to overcome self-doubt is really critical. And just to be a happier person, that takes a lot of effort. And of course, here's the thing, we're all starting at different levels. Like for me, I've always been a relatively positive, confident guy. So I've never really looked at things from a lens of I can't do this. I've always looked at them, I'm going to give them a try and we'll see how it goes, and then I'll adjust based off of how that goes. That can be really hard for people because, of course, most of us are afraid of failure. We're afraid of not being successful, afraid of ridicule. Oh my God, what's this person going to think? And that's that kind of idea of that confidence piece. So I guess my question is like, how did you kind of like, because I was just listening to it, and obviously you kind of said like you weren't super confident. How did you get past that? I mean, you're talking about somebody not being confident and then competing at a really high level. You didn't just go from A to Z. You had to have steps. What did you do?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And like you said, it's a lot of baby steps. I don't think people realize how long I've been doing this stuff for. Like I said, I've been active my entire life. Before when I was like 6 years old, I started doing martial arts, and that was it was very basic. It was your push ups, your sit ups, your squats, stuff like sparring. And I started doing this at a very young age. So like I grew up around boys. It was never a fearful thing for me to get in there and get hit in the face a little bit, or punch in the face, or kicked, or whatever. But for other people, it's a very scary thing. So along the way, I've been doing this my whole life, and I've been lifting for 10 years. So it doesn't happen overnight. And I think that's something that people, it's very cliche, but don't compare yourself to other people. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday. And it's like a gee whiz obvious thing, but at the same time, people do that so much. And it's very easy. And I wrote something down. This is something that I'm 29 now, so and like I'm still learning things about life. You have to be very careful, and it's a knife's edge of being mean to yourself versus being tough on yourself. And that's something that I
Yes.
think for the longest time I was just mean to myself. And it's you always want to hold yourself to a certain standard. And with different things, you hold yourself to a higher standard than others. Being mean to yourself is, oh, I hate myself because I didn't lose 20 pounds in a month. I see all these people online losing 15, 20, 30 pounds a month. I must be terrible at this. I must be a loser. Being tough on yourself is, hey, I want to lose 30 pounds this month. If it doesn't happen, I might have still lost 10 pounds, and that's okay because I'm making progress. I'm working towards that goal. That's holding yourself to a higher standard. But when you're mean to yourself, you don't want to keep going because you have that negative mind. You you walk in the gym, you go, oh, I didn't accomplish my goals. I'm a loser. I hate this. This is terrible. And you don't want to go back. Versus if you're not so just aggressive to yourself, if you don't have those thoughts in your head of, I'm terrible, you want to go back. Hey, I didn't hit 30 pounds this month. I didn't lose 30 pounds this month, but I still lost 20. And that's a heck of a lot more if I didn't hold myself to any sort of standard at all. And that's a heck of a lot more if I never stepped in this gym. And maybe I didn't do it this month, but I can do it next month, or I can do it in 2 months or in 3 months. And it's this idea of, there's a really, really surprising stat that I love. And it's if you get 1% better per day, in a year's time, you'll be 37.7 times better.
Right.
Yeah, it's like it's all that you need is these little baby steps because they compound. And Einstein said, again, these same ideas can be tied to a lot of different areas in life. Financially, the eighth one of the world is compound interest. So if you just get a little bit better every single day, it might be financial, it might be physically, it might be spiritually, it might be mentally, it might be intellectually, you can just compound that up and up and up and up. So small steps, and number one, baby steps, and number two, don't be so pardon my language, so goddamn mean to yourself. Give yourself a little bit of slack sometimes. Hold yourself to a standard, that's okay, but don't be so negative to yourself.
I love that. And actually, the funny thing, I had wrote down what you said about being hard on yourself and being mean to yourself, and that's something I often talk about. Like, so for those of you who don't know, well, most of you don't. I did bodybuilding for about 28 years. I did my first competition when I was 18. I did my last competition when I was 46. Along the way, I did some powerlifting stuff. So I've been picking up weights since I've been 13 years of age. So I've been picking up weights for 45 years. After I stopped bodybuilding at 46, and I might get back into it again, but then I kind of got into the powerlifting realm, and I've always been really strong. I've always just been picking up weights, but I'm going to tie it into what Austin said. So I just had a competition this past April, and I'm going to touch on something. I'll be interested to see what Austin says about it. So I don't want to delve too deep into it just because of the time. But bottom line is, I had to lose a certain amount of weight to make the weight class I was competing in, and normally I'm able to do that pretty easily because it's within the realm of possibilities, and I do it. And if you get a chance, if you're watching this or listening, please go on my YouTube channel and watch the video "Effing Stupid." If you haven't watched it, watch it. It's very good, and it ties into some of the stuff that Austin said. But as I was going through this journey, this past meet, I kind of let my ego get in the way, of like, I got to do this, and no, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it, and I ended up doing it. But by letting my ego become so strong, it ended up hurting my performance. And that's something that I want to just touch on. I'll hear what Austin has to say. Is that whatever journey you're picking up on, whether it's emotional, a relationship, or the wellness journey, you have to realize that there's going to be missteps, and making a mistake does not make you a failure. It just means you made a mistake, and you're going to make more than one mistake. You're going to make lots of mistakes. As a matter of fact, if you're not trying to get better, then you don't make mistakes. What happens with people, they're so afraid of messing up that they don't take any risks, which is common. They just stay the course. And both of us have taken plenty of risks. I mean, I think about it, writing a book, doing a podcast, powerlifting at a high level, bodybuilding. All those things have inherent risks of not being successful, people judging you. Oh my God, I can't believe you're doing it. As a matter of fact, I was just at a get together with some people, and a couple people were like, kind of like, oh my God, I know you got another thing going on. And it's like, and I hear that, and I hear that, and I have to kind of bite my tongue for a second, because I want to say, well, you're not doing squat.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I don't say it because I don't want to be that guy, but I'm thinking it because, like, listen, if you don't have something nice to say, then just shut up. Don't say anything, because I'm a huge believer in putting yourself out there. So I guess one of my questions was, is how do you provide that encouragement to people that they see some initial progress, but then it stalls.
That's a fantastic question. So I think that whenever you're working towards something, there's going to be an ebb and flow to everything. And there's going to be an initial kind of drive. There's going to be an initial push, and then it's going to peter off a little bit. And that's just a second wave right there. And that's really, I was a big fan of like reading about BUDS training, Navy SEAL training. And really what BUDS training is, there's different schools, and I think they're obviously always adapting and changing. The first BUDS school, I think it was Chris Kyle, somebody said it, that was just checking to see if you really wanted to be a Navy SEAL. And then after that, that's when they do all the training, the squad-based work, the tactics, and everything like that. BUDS training is like, can you run 27 miles and then wake up and then do this and then climb up this and then do that? So you have to sometimes ask yourself, do you really want this? Is it time to double down? Because life in the, speaking in a more spiritual sense here, if you call it God, call it the universe, call it karma, call it whatever, it's going to test you and it's going to put you through those tests. And it's going to double check, do you really want this? Are you hardened enough to believe this? And that's part of the journey. And if you don't really want that, it's like the reason why we hold these things in such a high regard is because they are tough. We look at bodybuilders and we're like, oh my God, how's that guy get in such amazing shape? Because it is tough. We look at people who write a book and we go, oh my, how can you organize all this chaos of thoughts of your brain into some type of articulate and organized manner? Because it is tough. And because if it wasn't tough, everyone would do it.
Yeah.
It's like, and
Yes.
like not to put down anybody's accomplishments, but you see somebody walking down the street, it's like, oh, that's just somebody walking down the street, because a lot of people walk down the street. It's not uncommon. So along the way, I like to use those periods to really double down. And kind of going back to what I said earlier, that's when I ask myself, who am I? Because, and that's really the most important thing, not just what are you, but who are you? People, it's a very cliche example, but you ask somebody, who are you? They go, oh, I'm a lawyer, or I'm an accountant. It's like, hold on, I didn't ask you what you do for a living, I ask you who you are. And fair, that's kind of a trick question, but those are the moments you ask who you are. Are you somebody that gives up? Are you somebody that wants to take the easy route? Are you somebody that just wants the result and without the work? And that's really, the work is going to change you for the better. And that's the important part right there. If it was easy and it didn't change you, it wouldn't be worth it at all. So in those challenges of tough times, it's like, dude, that's the golden area right there. That's the cool part right there. So double down, man. Enjoy the process. Grit your teeth a little bit. It's going to suck. It's going to hurt, but that's the most fun time right there.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And I actually think about that so frequently. So I started in the habit of walking every morning, not for the physical piece, but for the emotional piece of just having some time, and also just honestly to challenge myself. And people would say, "Oh my God, you're just walking." No, my goal is to get up every morning, you know, even when I'm off, because I'm a teacher, I'm not working in the summer. Is the tendency is, well, now that I'm not working in the summer, I'll get up at like 9 o'clock in the morning. No, getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning, going out for a walk, just to be able to help myself center, but also the challenge of just doing it, you
Yes.
know, just doing it. And I also think there doesn't always need to be an end game. Like a lot of times people see that there has to be this peak that you reached. I have to get to here. First of all, I personally think that's incredibly flawed thinking, because then you're basically saying, well, if I don't get here, I'm not successful. And that's just not the case. The journey of trying new things, of, you said, hardship, of challenging yourself emotionally or physically, or even in a relationship or at your job, they create incredible habits that are long lasting. Your brain gets rewired
Mm.
when you do those things enough times. And it doesn't take a lot to really get that habit going. As a matter of fact, I've been walking for about maybe a month, I'd say, and I don't even think about it anymore. I mean, yes, when I wake up in the morning, it can be a little daunting getting out of bed, because you don't feel like getting out of bed, but you just do it. You get up, throw some clothes on, go outside, go for a walk. Now, obviously, when it gets to the wintertime and it's cold, it's going to be harder. But, and this is a key thing that Austin and I are talking about, but by that time, I will already have built all of those skills that I'm able to do that. And that's something that, if whatever journey you are on or ever habit you're trying to build, or whether it's financial, a relationship, your own wellness, you want to put yourself in the best opportunity to be successful. That is critical. And what I mean by that is, let's just say you decide you want to pick up weights. Well, instead of trying to learn how to do a clean, you know, learn how to do a press or something that isn't so complicated. And that's really important, because once you build those little bits of success along the way, when a misstep happens, which it will, you're so much more apt to be able to deal with it because you've had lots of success. If you start out on any kind of journey and it's too complicated, too complex, too challenging, unless you are incredibly confident and strong-willed, you are going to stop. What do you think? Thoughts on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Building that momentum up for small steps and leading you into having the momentum into the bigger challenges. That's going to be the most key right there. It's funny. I talk to people sometimes, and maybe they're newer to the gym. Maybe they've been working out for a month, whatever. And they say, hey, I tried to make it in Tuesday, but I was really tired, so I just stayed home. I'm like, I understand, dude. That's life. And I'm not judging anybody because, again, people have different priorities and different goals. Sometimes their son has a basketball game, whatever. That's fine. I'm like, but if you're just tired, here's what I need you to do. Just drive to the gym. I'm like, if you go to the gym and you're still dead tired, that's fine. Drive home, but just drive to the gym. And they look at me like, what are you talking about, dude? I'm like, no, seriously. Because when you drive to that gym, it's building a habit. It's rewiring your brain to make it into a habit. And maybe you didn't pick up any dumbbells. So you can look at scientifically speaking, like, oh, I didn't burn any calories and whatever. That's all. That's fine. But if you drive to the gym, number one, you build a habit. And then number two, you're more likely to go in there and just do 1 or 2 sets. And those 1 or 2 sets start to become the habit of doing 3 or 4 sets and then 10 sets. And before you know it, you're just going to the gym. People ask me all the time, how do you stay motivated? I'm like, I don't have any motivation, dude. It's just a habit at this point in my life. I just do it. And it's the truth. And I think another thing that you touched on too, it's like you wake up every morning and you just do it because it rewires your brain. I remember I was especially my parents, my poor parents, I was such a stubborn kid sometimes. They would be like, just do it, Austin. I'm like, why? Like just do it. I'm like, but why? Like, tell me. And it's like, you look at the military, why do they make these guys make their bed? Does making my bed really have an outcome on my performance? I shouldn't say on one's performance as a soldier. It's like, well, not directly, but indirectly it does. Because when you wake up in the morning and you make your bed, it wires your brain for doing the task, for some type of minuscule, small goal. I want to make my bed. I made my bed. Now I have some order in my space, in my existence. It starts to build that from there. So these very, very minuscule small habits are going to lead into that bigger habit. When you are used to climb up hills and you face that mountain, that's just a bigger hill. That's all it is. But when you never faced a hill before and you hit a mountain, it's like it hits you really hard. It's really it's difficult to conquer that mountain.
And that's so true. And again, people talk about like making their bed, right? Like people would say like walking in the morning, right?
Yes.
Like I'm not walking. First, I'm not walking for the physical fitness benefit. There is one. There is a benefit. Walking is a great activity, but I get a lot of exercise as it is. Like
Yes.
walking is not going to change my physique. But I'm doing it because, well, first of all, I love the idea of the peace and quiet of walking.
Yeah.
that's, that's that's the first thing. I love the silence. Literally, the other day I was walking and I took a video of a deer with its baby, and it was totally quiet. And it was just that serene atmosphere that was nice. And also, being honest is I love the challenge of doing new things. Like, and that's something else for everybody who's watching and listening. Every goal doesn't need to be daunting. Like some goals need to be easy.
Yes.
Like they just have to be. Like if every goal that you have is climbing Mount Everest, you're going to have a lot of failure.
Oh yeah.
If one of your goals is to do that, and when I say that, of course that's extreme. I'm just saying that like personally for me, like as a competitive powerlifter, I have numbers in my brain that I'd like to be able to reach, that I'd like to be able to hit. So like as a master's power lifter at 148 pounds, I'm benching 282, squatting 354, deadlifting, 408. They're great numbers, but are they things that I'm totally striving for? No, I want better than that. How much better? I don't know. I don't know how much better, but I know I want better. And if I just said to myself, hey, I want to bench 330, that could be so beyond the realm of what it's possible for somebody my age and weight. If I said, hey, I want to bench 283, maybe so. So I don't think that everything that we do needs to be so beyond the realm of feasible. There has to be a tiered system of success when it comes to any part of life. But I can tell you right now, and we'll talk a little bit about the lifting stuff. I can tell you right now, when it comes to the fitness stuff, things have to be tiered. They have to be, because it is way too challenging. And of course, everybody, you touched this in the beginning of our talk about, you see this guy, hey, this guy's jacked on Instagram and this woman's ripped on Instagram. And the first thing you think about is, how do I get like that? When really, that should not be it at all. It should be, how do I get better?
Yes.
And again, of course, that's social media piece, and and again, that goes back to the confidence. Like for me, I follow many powerlifters. I see many powerlifters. I can tell you right now, I'm not trying to emulate any of them. Like I'm not trying to emulate any of them. I might try to see some of their technical stuff that they do that might make me better, but I'm not thinking about the weight that they're doing. Like if a guy's doing 800 pounds, I don't say, man, I got to do that. I might admire that he's doing it, but that doesn't make me think any differently of myself. You know, what would you do? Like, so somebody, and I know we're going to have a bunch of guys watching this. Okay, what do you say to the guy who's just starting to kind of think about getting into the lifting, or a woman? Doesn't have to be a guy; could be a guy or a woman. What would you say to them are the keys to that initial success?
Oh, here's a good one. You'll appreciate this. Don't get caught up in the fad diets. Every single time I turn on Instagram, it's like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. This week I'm only eating bananas, and next week I can only eat blueberries. I'm like, dude, like, listen, whatever. So I have a good friend of mine. He was very overweight. He lost a lot of weight doing fasting. And I know there's some scientific literature out there about fasting, but at the end of the day, it's calories in and calories out.
Right,
And yeah, so like what you're doing is you're artificially you're putting something proxy on yourself to limit your calories. If I say, hey, you can only eat, I don't know, only eat the same letter of food as day it is. So on Mondays you can eat, I don't know, mashed potatoes, mangoes, and what you're doing is you're putting something of a limit on what you can eat, and that's going to thus reduce your caloric intake. And I know there's more to fasting than that. I'm just using fast as an example. Anyways, the point I'm getting at, the for the most part, we know what works and what doesn't work. You
oh,
go back to Arnold in the 70s, it's like what worked back then still works now. And so it comes back to just putting your time in, putting the work in, getting your diet right, and just nose to the grind. And so, and I see it all the time. And I did it too as a kid. It's like, oh, well, so and so has a new protein bar out, or they have a new pre-workout, and I'm gonna take this pre-workout, I'm gonna be jacked, I'm gonna have 20-inch arms. It's like, maybe, maybe, but I really want you to focus on the basics. Focus on putting the time in, and focus on that compound interest that we talked about before. And that's what's going to be the ultimate key to your success right there.
yeah, that's so true. Because obviously I teach. Austin was in my life fitness class, so the first life fitness class that we ever had where I teach was, I believe, in um let me think about it, 2009 maybe.
Yeah,
What year did you graduate?
2013.
Right, yeah, so it was probably 2009 or something like that. And we had one class. There was one section of it. Well, now I teach six of them.
Oh wow.
Yeah, now I teach six, and a lot of that is because I think what you said is so critical. Is stop thinking about the next. I had a kid in my class this year. He's good kid. He's like, Shap, I'm on the watermelon diet.
Oh,
I'm like, what?
yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'm on the melon diet. I'm like, I know what it is. Well, what is that, man? He's like, it's what I said, I know what it is, but like, why are you doing that?
Yep.
He's like, well, I'm trying to lose weight fast. I'm like, okay, yeah, it'll
Cool. Yeah.
work. It'll work. But then what happens after that? You're just gonna like live on watermelon?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
and there is no, oh my God, this topic here, we could talk for freaking hours because it's so frustrating to me. The number of times I have said, and I'm going to see this and see what you say, okay? The number of times I have said is getting better in the, let's say, fitness field or lifting or whatever it is, comes down to these basic things. Number one, being consistent. Got to be consistent. Number two, you have to have some kind of plan. You can't just wing it over and over again. Number three, you have to have a positive attitude. Number four, there's got to be, this is the lifting piece, there's got to be some kind of progressive overload. And for those of you who don't know what progressive overload means, it just means that if I come into the gym for a month and I get really good at benching 135 pounds and that's all I do, that's all I'm going to do. You got to be able to kind of increase your weight, your reps, your sets, and so on. And also, you have to give yourself some kudos on the success that you have. You have to. And those to me are the basics of building success in the fitness realm. It's not a matter of whether you took a certain pre-workout. It's not a matter of whether you had a piece of sirloin steak or mashed potatoes. It is really a matter of the whole umbrella of everything. How do you put them all together to be able to be successful? And if anything is missing, something is going to suffer along the way. Like if you're lifting but your attitude sucks, when it gets hard, you're not going to go.
Oh yeah.
If you're eating a Big Mac and you're dirty bulking.
Yeah.
By the way,
Yep.
listen, I'm going to get a little close. Dumbest freaking thing ever. The dumbest. What the heck is dirty bulking? What, you mean a way to get fat?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
dumbest thing ever. But that's what people do. Like eat good foods, train the right way, get enough rest, have a positive attitude. Do those four things.
Yeah. You're 100% right, and it's funny. I talk to people all the time with that positive attitude piece. That's one of the biggest things. There's a pretty famous study that I like, and it ties back to belief in yourself. We're humans. If you truly believe in yourself, there's a placebo effect that goes on here. There's a there's a great study that I like a lot. This proves it to yourself. When you believe, you have a positive outlook, you're going to catapult you so much further than anything, literally, not literally, almost anything else you can take. So there was a study with high level Olympic weightlifters, and they gave them all steroids, quote unquote, and they all hit PRs. Now these steroids were nothing more than sugar pills, but because they believed they were taking steroids, all their numbers went up. So it's like when you believe in yourself, you have the positive outlook, and you fuel yourself with the right stimulus and the right foods. It's so much more beneficial than, I don't know, some article on how strawberries can make you 5% stronger. It's like maybe there is some evidence of that, but man, far be it for me to question that. I'm sure you know too, the amount of times, the amount of articles you came across that suggest some things. It's like, dude, there's millions of them. I for the most part, and I'm not the greatest lifter in the world, but I've seen what works and what doesn't work. Those small little articles about whatever, they don't work. Believe in yourself, progressive overload, feeling yourself the right foods, and giving yourself a positive outlook is going to work.
It's so true.
Yeah.
I love when I watch some famous. I won't. Me. I'm not going to bash anybody because it's
Right.
not my style. But like, I love when I watch like a famous influencer talk about like the 10 things you got to eat.
Yep.
I watch it,
Yeah.
and I say to myself like, oh my God, man! Like, first of all, the science community is totally bogus.
Yeah.
It's totally bogus, and I know there's going to be people who push back on me. Let me be clear. I'm not saying that science isn't important. So let me stress that. Like I can tell you right now, creatine works.
Yes.
So there you go.
Yeah,
That
100%.
works.
Yep.
But the reason it works is because they have done so many scientific studies on creatine that it's proven that it works. Taking like other supplements, there have not been nearly enough studies to prove that they work. Here, I'll tell you something else that works. And I said it already, progressive overload. It works. There's science behind it. If you force your muscles to lift heavier or more than what they're used to, you will get stronger and bigger. That works. And I think in the fitness industry, it's not sexy to say that.
Yes, it doesn't
Like,
sell, doesn't make you money.
wait. And I will say to everybody watching and the people that know me, my own character will not allow me to promote BS.
Yes.
I will never, ever do that. I will never promote BS on this channel. I will promote things that I know through my own experiences, through the listeners like Austin. I will never promote something that I don't know if it works or not. I can say easily that creatine works. I could say that progressive overload works. I could say that having a positive attitude works. We could say that getting enough rest helps. Those are scientifically proven to make a difference in your life. Are there other things that may work? Yes. Yes. They may work. We just don't know how much. Like, does pre-workout give you energy? Yeah. That's because it has caffeine. That's why.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
there's nothing miraculous about that.
Yep.
That's what it is. If you took that out of it, it wouldn't do that. So there's nothing miraculous and sexy about it. It is what it is. You know, I don't know if that makes sense. That was a little bit of a ramble.
No, yeah, that's you're 100% right. You know, people ask me all the time, like, what brand of free workout do you take? I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like, it's caffeine. It's all the same thing. Like,
Right.
it's all the same.
Well, yeah, because again, but the people that are asking you that, they're asking because, well, obviously they're not as knowledgeable as you, and again, they're going back and looking for that kind of edge,
Yes, magic pill.
which there isn't. There isn't a magic pill. I mean, it's just putting in the time and just doing that. One of the things you kind of, I'm kind of looking at one of the post-it notes I put down, and you kind of said, um, finding that positive, supportive environment. What does that look like, and what do you mean by that?
Well, I think that it all starts with yourself, and the people you surround yourself with. You know, I think it was Zig Ziglar said that if you show me your five closest people, five closest friends, be they're gonna be a sum of you. And I tell people a lot of times, and especially a lot of men about my age, um, later 20s, earlier 20s, maybe they're more a little bit serious about relationships, and their girlfriend dumps them, and they're just a mess. And I'm like, listen, man, like I don't have all the answers. I'm not smart enough to give you all the answers, but I know some people who I look at when I need the answers. So let's take for example Jocko Willink. He's an amazing dude, Navy SEAL, tough as nails. I don't know Jocko personally, but what I can do is I can watch his podcast. I can artificially be like him, surround myself with people like him, and they're going to help to motivate me and kind of rewire my brain. I told some people sometimes, and they're just a mess. I'm like, listen, man, you got one job right now. For next week, 2 weeks, there's going to be a storm in your mind right now. I want you to jam as much information into your ear as possible. You might not process that, you might not hear all of it, but your subconscious is going to pick up on that. Little demeanor, little things that the way these people think are going to start to rub off on you. So listen to their podcasts, read their books, because when you read their books, it's going to become you're basically taking someone else's thoughts and making them your own thoughts because your mind has to process them. So people who you want to be like, number one, I should say, cut out the toxic people in your life. The people
No.
why are you doing that? Why would you want to look like that? Especially if I hear this all the time, and it drives me up a wall. Especially when a girl is trying to get in good shape. Oh, they look like a man. Why would you want to look like that? I'm like, cut those people out immediately, Or the people that I guess this goes back to another point I had too. Like, people are only going to criticize you when they're beneath you. Why are you doing that? Why are you trying to do that? Why are you trying to get rich, man? All rich people are assholes. Whatever. Sorry, we shouldn't curse on here.
It's okay.
But like, yeah, it's the people who are above you. They're going to be supportive of you. Oh, you're starting a business, dude? That's incredible. How can, what's your demographic? What are you doing? What's your business plan? So cut out the toxic people. And listen, it might be tough. It might be simple as, hey, I can't hang out today. The people who are partying and smoking and at the bar every day. And it's funny, I used to work security too. A lot of these guys were pretty good people, but you could just tell that some of these guys were going nowhere in life because all they did was do their day job and they go to the bar. And I was just there because I was working security, but I'm like, I gotta get out of here. And that's one of the reasons why I quit that job. It was fine for a little side hustle, but anyways, I digress. Cut out the toxic people, cut out the lack of attitude, the losers in your life, the people who aren't going anywhere, cut them out. Don't hang out with them. Don't associate with them. And it might be a little tough at first. Move on. Find the positive people. And when you can be a positive person, more other positive people want to come into your life.
Oh,
It's funny. I was thinking back to my first meet. It's been like 10 years now. I drove to my first meet by myself. I didn't know anybody at this meet. And now it's like I know people everywhere. Like there's not a state in America that I can't go to and find a gym that I know somebody from Instagram on. And they're all extremely supportive and extremely positive people because you just kind of become this beacon. We can radiate positivity, and then other positive people want to be around you, and it just becomes a snowball effect where people keep building, they keep supporting you from there.
that's so true. And I actually was just talking to a whole bunch of students the other day, and I was saying, I was talking about when I was in high school, and I was talking about I didn't like high school, but I liked hanging out with my friends. And then I added, I mean, fake friends. Like, and that's what I said is like one of the most difficult things is figuring out who your real friends are. And that can be really hard because a lot of times you don't know. And I said that if somebody doesn't make you feel good about yourself and who you are, they are not a real friend. It doesn't mean that, it doesn't mean they can't be honest. They should be honest with you. So if you mess up or you're doing something that goes against your morals, somebody should be able to tell you.
Yes.
But that should be in a way that is supportive, not hateful.
Yes.
And that's something I'll say it to younger people all the time when they say, "How many friends do you have?"
Oh.
You know that one? You've heard
Yeah.
that probably thousands of times. Like,
Yeah.
how many friends do you have? I'm like, oh, I got 60 friends. I'm like, no, no, no. How many friends do you have? Not how many people do you say hi to? How many friends? And nobody, how many friends do you have? And I'll be like, I don't know, 10,
Yeah.
you know? Like, and again, I might be friendly with a lot more than 10 people, but I don't have 100 friends. And when I say friends, I mean true friends. I mean somebody who'd go to bat for me if I was in dire help. And that again goes back to, it's all circles back to that same area of wellness. You know, like there's guys that I live with that I consider them my friends. I consider them people that would support me, that encourage me, but they're also honest enough with me to tell me if I mess up in a way that is positive and real and authentic, which is incredibly important. Just understanding that, I guess.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that you said was interesting. It's like, people are, especially when they're a little bit younger, they're so focused on having friends. One of the things I mentioned before was because these things are very tough to achieve, you got to realize you're not going to be like a normal person. I run this a lot with talking with people. I don't watch any Netflix. I don't watch any movies. I don't really do stuff like that. So I'll be at a situation. They're like, "Hey, did you see this movie here? Watch it." I'm like, "No." "Oh, what about Breaking Bad? Did you see that?" "No." Like, so realize that sometimes you're not going to fit in, and because you're trying to be, what's the word I'm looking for?
An
Somebody,
extrovert.
yeah, well, not necessarily an extrovert, but a hyper performer of a person, very successful in any area, because you're at that top 1%, you might not blend in with all these people. And that's okay. That's part of the cost of ambition. I guess what I'm saying is less friends are better sometimes because that means that you're an
Definitely.
outlier. That means that you're special in some way. That means that you're different from the crowd. And maybe that's what you're trying to be. And maybe that comes along with it too. So it's not about having 60 friends. Who cares about that? But having 10
Right.
close friends that are willing to be like, hey, you messed up on this. You said the wrong move there. You didn't do this lift right. That was bad. Do it right. And it's like, that's a real friend right there.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. It's again, it's about being authentic and just just being real with people. I think that's again critical. I wanted to just touch on a couple more things. So, what is your biggest accomplishment?
You know, it's I thought about this question a lot, and it's a tough one. I think if I was just passing with somebody, I would just say probably doing the bodybuilding show or the Arnold was probably my biggest accomplishment. But the more I think about it, those numbers don't really mean anything. I have my medals hanging up over there, but they're just medals at the end of the day. There's hunks of metal. Um, the person I became is really
Mhm.
the most important thing to me. And like I said before, like when people who've never met before DM you and say you're an inspiration to me, that's huge to you. And I think one of the issues that we have in the world is people are so lost without direction, and they need so little encouragement sometimes. And if you can be that person that other people look to, it's you can change the world for so much better. You can put so much good out in the world. So the fact that people, and I'm not trying to say like, oh, I'm a great person, look at me, but obviously
You,
some,
well, hold on, you are.
well, that gets in another thing there. I think that anybody that says they're a good person probably isn't a good person. You know, like, oh,
Well,
I'm a great person. It's like, so I try not to do that.
okay. Well, we'll disagree.
Yeah. But
I'll just simply say, I'll simply say the reason I disagree with that is I know where you're going.
yeah,
I know where you're going with it, and the reason I would disagree is that um, self-talk is incredibly important. Positive affirmations are really critical.
yes,
And I'm not saying that you walk into a room and say, "Hey, I'm Austin. I'm the best guy ever." That's
yeah,
just called being arrogant.
yeah,
I don't mean that. What I do mean is I'll do this a lot with people. Like if I said to you, "Hey, Austin, you're a good guy," and you'd be like, "Oh, I tried." No, that's not the answer. The answer is thank you. It's not I tried. It's thank you. Like if somebody gives you a compliment, or like if I say to you, "Man, Austin, I'm really proud of you," what's the answer?
I really appreciate that.
That's it.
Yeah, you taught me that. That was a few years back.
Yeah.
You made me practice that. You're like, don't look down, don't say it. Look me in the eye and say, I appreciate that. I'm like, I appreciate that. I do that to this day too.
But that's true though.
Yeah,
That's true. Like own. I always say, I'll say to kids, own your greatness. Own it. Like, and I don't mean I mean everybody. Like if somebody said to me, "Hey, Shap, you're really strong," I wouldn't say, "Well, I'm trying to be." No, I'd say, "Thank you. I appreciate that," and I'd leave it there. I don't need to go into a 10-minute lecture. Just simple. It doesn't mean not trying to be better. And of course, I know I know where Austin's going. He's talking about the arrogance piece.
yeah.
But I'll ask you: do you think you're a good man?
Uh, yes, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Are you about to say something else? you, you
Well, I had like this hour-long conversation with somebody the other day, and I always mess up the author's name. I always say it wrong. Dostoevsky, whatever his name is. But there's a lot more. There's a deep psychological, and that's kind of what I'm on. But anyways,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
I thought you.
there's this kind of deep psychological thing that sometimes you don't understand your own intentions, and you have to realize that sometimes you don't, even though you think you have the best intentions, you really don't deep down. Anyways, that gets into deep psychology, but
Of
that's
course,
yeah,
and again that. But I think again, I think that comes back to okay. So everybody, I've known Austin for 16 years.
yeah, sounds about right.
16 years. When Austin was a student, he was a really nice young man. Well, now he's a nice older man. Then all of a sudden become an ass.
Yeah,
Like, like again, and that's just kind of like how it is. Like if somebody's a good person, they're a good person. And if they're not, then try to become a good person.
yes,
Like you can change. It is possible to change. It's not going to be a clear path up. And some people are starting at different levels than somebody else, just like in the fitness journey. I have I've known people that have no lifting experience at all and can bench 185 with no experience. And I'm not talking about some big guy who weighs 300 pounds. I'm talking about a kid who's 140 pounds and just come in with no, because they're just starting at a different level. They already have that maybe genetic piece. just like our attitudes. Some people are naturally positive and some people aren't. But that doesn't mean that we all can't change. It's just going to take different steps to get there. Some people have to honestly work harder than others. And again, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. That's just kind of like life. And I tell you right now, like I'm putting in the title, the person I became. I love that. I love that. I wrote it down. I mean, you can't read
like
my writing because it's scribble, but I
that.
love that because I think that goes so far beyond like being able to, total almost 2,000 pounds or winning the Arnold. I think it goes above that. I think it's just who you are as a person because guess what? Those other things, like the person I become, they lead to the other things.
Exactly.
So I want people to, I'm going to say it again because it's really important. As you become a better person, whatever that looks like or feels like, the things that you try to achieve in life become so much more doable.
Yes.
When you walk around negative, unhappy, have self doubt, or overly critical of yourself and others, then making change is really hard because you have all these barriers. Once you start to do that, and I will say to everybody here and the people that know me, and this might come across as conceit. If it does, it's not meant to. I'm not afraid to try anything. I mean, with a reason,
Yeah.
I'm not, climbing Mount Everest
Yeah.
again, but like, I'm not afraid to try something because I feel like, well, why not?
Yeah. Was
Why not?
yeah.
If it doesn't work, I revisit it or don't do it at all.
Yep.
You know. Let me see if we can touch on anything else you want to touch on. You think is important? I mean, I see a couple of things I wrote down. We can touch on them at the end. But anything else that you want to kind of pass along?
Yeah, something that came to my mind too. I don't know what exactly you said that made me think of it. I think some beginners in the gym, they have negative self-talk. And I'll talk to people sometimes. I'll see a Facebook post like, I was in the gym and I'm overweight and I saw this really jack guy look at me and now I feel more self-conscious. I'm like, dude, speaking from a jack guy's perspective, we're probably looking at you and going, dude, we give you all the props in the world. I think that sometimes people weigh their success on how they look. Like somebody will come up to me like, hey, I lost 100 pounds. I'm like, dude, that's incredible, man. Like that level of success is huge versus somebody that already started in shape and maybe now they're benching 225. I give them credit too, don't get me wrong. But so don't necessarily put yourself down because you're not who you want to be just at. Look at how far you've come. If it's financially, if it's spiritually, if it's physically, look at how far you've come.
And you know what? That's something. But that goes back to I think Austin, who you are. Like you are the guy who, when a guy comes up to you and say, "I lost 100 pounds," you are the guy who's going to say, "Great."
Yeah, exactly.
Not everybody's like that.
Yeah,
I mean, you happen to be like that because that's just you as a person. You're not all about yourself. You're about helping others.
yeah,
But I do think that's a very important message. Like especially for the people that are watching that are thinking about getting into lifting, or maybe if you already are. Um, as somebody who's 58, been training my whole life, I honestly don't worry about what anybody else is doing in a gym
yeah,
ever.
yeah.
I
Unless
mean,
they're unless they're doing something dangerous. So I'm like, oh, hold on.
but
Yeah,
and again, I will go up to people like especially when it comes to compound lifts, like a squat, a bench, a dead, or something like that, where I feel like I'm an expert in, and I'll say, hey, do you mind if I give you a tip? And they could say yes or no. Like either way, I'm not going to be hurt. If they say yes, great. If they say no, fine as well.
yeah,
Like, but I'm not chasing what other people do. I know you even actually mentioned that. You mentioned about chasing your goals. I think that you do want to have goals and you do want to go after them, but you don't want to be the person that is so unrealistic of what's feasible in their life.
of course, yeah,
Like when you go to the gym, if you've never picked up a weight, your initial goal should not be to squat 315.
no,
Like your initial goal should be to pick up a weight and be consistent.
yes,
That's what it should be. And then as you get better, you kind of think about what other things you're going to do.
exactly. Just small steps along the way and keep building yourself up. And that's, like the I'm no scientist. I don't know this in detail. I want to know what I've been told. the dopaminergic response is that of chasing your goal, moving towards that goal. So ideally, you like to have a goal that's just within reach, but every time you move towards that goal, you bump it up just a little bit further there.
Mm.
So if it's squatting, and here's a huge one too. Most people, they live a very sedentary lifestyle. They can't squat to depth. So let's take a kettlebell, take a dumbbell. Can you even squat? Because the majority of people cannot squat to depth. Like seriously. And then, okay, cool, we got that. Let's see if you can do it with the barbell now. Let's see if you can do it with 95 pounds, then 135. So you're always moving towards that. If you put the goal so far ahead, it's like what's it like a scoop. If you're so far ahead that you don't see progress because you're too, it's too big, you got to bring that back a little bit. Now you can see that, and now you feel good about yourself. And now, not only are you a more positive person, it's we've talked about this before. When everyone, like, if you're a more positive person because you got a good workout in, you're in a good mood, you come back home to your wife and kids. Now you're more fun to be around. Now you're more active. Now you can play with your kid more. It's a carryover to every other area in your life. And it's not just lifting. I just use that as an example because it's kind of tangible and feasible. When you're a goal-oriented person, you move towards those goals, it carries over to everything else in life.
And that's so true. And I love. I mean, I have to touch on the squatting to parallel. The number of kids that I see, like, who they're doing a max test, for a team, and I'll watch it and I'll be like, dude, man, who's watching
Yeah.
you? Like, you're like
Yeah.
you're like 4 inches above parallel. Like,
Yep.
and again, that's the ego.
Yes.
Like, that's the ego, and somebody's not correcting. Like, I know in my class, the class that I teach, you are not squatting until you can do a parallel squat. I will have you do 100 body weight squats until I feel what body weight feels like with parallel. Get to parallel. You don't need to be 5 inches below it, but like, get parallel so you can feel what it's like. It's like developing those habits over and over and over again till they become just part of who you are.
Oh yeah, and even from a injury prevention standpoint, if
Yeah.
I'm just going to use my elbows because you can see it. If I only train to here, that tendon is not being stretched to here. So the moment I'm here and now I have to go lower, I'm in a really compromised position too. And this is just a simple joint in my elbow. Now imagine your hips and your lower back. If you're not used to squatting there at all, and now you have a weight on your back, and now you're trying to get lower, your lower back isn't used to that position there. So that's a super important thing. So I'm on board with what you say. Get below or right to parallel with body weight 100 times before we start putting weight on there.
And I would, just kind of say, like, if you're somebody who's getting into lifting or you're already in there, like, please spend more time doing compounds.
Yes.
Like, please, please, please. Like, hey, there's nothing wrong with doing curls. There's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with doing tricep push downs. There's nothing wrong with that. Perfectly fine. But you get big and strong by doing multi-joint compound movements. Row, press, squat, dead, clean. And if people that might wonder why, I'll just simply say it this way. Nobody is curling what they're squatting. Nobody's doing handle weights that are going to stress your nervous system, that are going to be taxing. They're going to help you get stronger.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. Hit those compound movements because they're dynamic movements, and are they? How do I phrase this right? What's the word I'm looking for here? Anyway, the way your body moves, if we look at running's a compound movement. Look at jumping, it's a
Yep.
compound movement. So your body's more akin to through everyday life to hit those compound movements there.
So let me ask you, as we wrap up, I want you to tell me what one key tip for success in life. You could take a minute and think about it. So somebody walks up to you, says, Austin, what is your one key tip for success in life?
Ooh,
What do you think?
I love this question. I ask people this question a lot. There'll be people I'll just be talking to. I remember was working with a PT for a little bit, and I'm like, man, like I really like this guy. He's a really positive dude. I'm like, let me ask you a question, man. I'm like, what's your number one tip for life? And I'll do this with people who I admire, and I've kind of built my own metaphorical book of advice. Remember there's some of these books, like 1,001 tips for teens leaving home, or 1,001 tips for
Yeah.
kids going to college. And I try to build that through life just by talking with people. And I think that I'm going to give a little bit of a cop-out answer, but ask people. You really don't have to be very far. Most people are dealing with some type of external crisis of some kind. Either they're dealing with something, or their mom has cancer, or they're dealing with something, or their brother's going broke, or just went to prison, or he's going through whatever. He's going through a divorce. Um, and it's kind of like it's a shame that people have to go through that suffering, that pain. But you can learn a lot from these people. You can learn what they did, so that when crisis comes in your life, because it's coming for all of us in some way, shape, or form, you know what to do. You've kind of learned from other people there before. So the best advice I can give is talk to people and be inquisitive and learn from them, and realize that everything is in relativity. Going back to the fitness example, if I ask surgeons for advice, they're going to tell me to get surgery. If I hurt my elbow, go to surgeons, they're going to tell me to get surgery. If I go to PTs, they're going to tell me to do exercises. So realize that everyone has their own perspective in life, but that's the key. The president has their cabinet. They get advice from different people, and they form what's best there. Build your cabinet, build your team of people, and just pick their brains, because people love to talk and people love to share their story. And I think I wrote it down here too. Where did I put it here? Because I'm going to mess up this. Chase your goals. There's pain and suffering coming for all of us, and there's going to be tough times and hardship. But the good news is you get to pick your pain. You get to pick your suffering. When you're in the gym, you can have the suffering of pushing through those reps, pushing through that cardio, or you can have the pain of being fat and being out of shape and being sick, or you can have the pain of being embarrassed on the beach, or you can have the pain of not feeling confident from other people. So you get to pick that, chase those goals. And when you have that desire to be better in life, don't extinguish that. Find a way to put that into something else. And don't let other people extinguish that fire in you.
Ooh, man. You're giving me some writing notes here, brother. What'd you say? Don't extinguish?
Yeah,
Don't let others.
you look at a kid, man, and this is kind of what it's fun talking with kids sometimes, because they have so much inspiration, so much passion. They're like, they want to be an astronaut, they want to go to the moon, they want to go to Mars. And as you get a little older, you realize these things might not quite be realistic, but that kind of childhood wonder almost inspires you. And that's kind of why it's cool to talk to kids sometimes. And it's like, people have that passion. And through life beats us down, it kicks us in our teeth, and sometimes we lose that. And you can't lose that sometimes. Be realistic with your goals and your expectations, but it's like, don't be a victim of your circumstances. Keep that fire burning within you, because once it's out, it's so hard to keep it going. But once you have, there are people in this world that either have it or they don't. You talk to people, and it's like, hey man, I want to hit this goal here. I want to bench this. The people that don't have it are going to look at you and be like, why? Isn't that unhealthy? Why would you want to do that? The people that have it, they're going to be, hell yeah, man, get after it. Let's get it, dude. So that you just see it in people's eyes, man.
I'm just writing notes.
No, you're good.
I love Austin. I love that kind of end piece, man. You touched on some really good things. Like, once keep that fire going. Once it's out, it's hard to get back. Oh, boy, that's true. I love to ask people, chase your goals, build your cabinet. That's a great one. I haven't heard that, but I'm stealing it.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like that.
Surround yourself by
that's
people.
Yep, really powerful stuff. Anything else you want to say?
No, this has been fantastic. This has been really cool. What about you? If you could have one piece of advice to give other people.
Thank you for it. Now you put me on
Yeah.
the spot here. One piece of advice. I mean, it's so cliche, but it really is true. Believe in yourself.
Yes.
I mean, it's cliche because it sounds good, but it really is true. Like, I'll just simply say, like, I was thinking about it, and I think about, like, doing a podcast, which I've never done, powerlifting, bodybuilding, writing a book, doing all these things, jumping out of a plane, doing all these things. And that's just because I've always had a belief in myself. Like I believe I'm capable of doing it. And again, if it comes off as, arrogant, that's okay. It's not meant to. It's just how I feel. And I think it's the same for you. Like, there's no way you're doing all these things if you didn't have some belief in yourself. There's no way. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't have doubt. That's a different thing. I think we all have doubt when challenges come. I mean, I can tell you, that when I was up in the plane, in this little rinky-dink plane where I could hear every little sound, and I'm 13,000 feet up and I'm getting ready to jump out of the plane, I'd be lying if I didn't say there wasn't a few moments where I was like, I don't want to do this. That's just human nature. We kind of have to move past that. Yeah, believe in yourself, and I'll just kind of pick a. I have Austin's thing here. I have to think about how I want to finish this up. Um, I don't even know. I don't even know what to do here.
Yeah, we could talk for hours, and we have
I don't know what
before.
I should say here. Okay. I'll finish with this. So, Austin, first of all, hey man, we're gonna do it. We're gonna do this again, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
This was. I mean, I knew it was gonna be great. I knew it was gonna be great. You touched on so many things. First of all, you're in my wheelhouse of fitness and wellness, which is such a passion. But I love how humble you are and sincere, authentic, just a great man. And I appreciate you for that.
I appreciate you, Shap.
I know you do, and I appreciate that as well. So everybody, first of all, obviously, there's no way you're walking out of this conversation not picking up something. got, got to be picking up something. Got to pick up at least one nugget. I mean, I just listening to Austin, I picked up about 50, and I already know him. So lots of nuggets. Again, please consider subscribing and sharing. That's how the channel builds. If you'd like to be on the podcast, love to have you on. Please reach out. And, I take all comers just because it's not about just one person's voice. We kind of grow and learn together. And that's how we make the world a better place. As I finish up, I always finish with a quote. And I'm going to finish with probably the title of the podcast. I'm not sure, but I'm going to finish with this. What was it? Don't let others extinguish your fire. Is that what it was? Or don't let others extinguish your goal?
Yeah. Keep that. So the one question you sent me, I said, I pray that you chase your goals. I hope there's a passion fire that burns within you. So through all the pain, all the hardship, you can make it all worth it.
So there you go. That's Austin's finish. That's our finish. I'll leave it at that. Everybody, we appreciate you.
Thank you guys
Austin,
so much.
You're the man. Have any questions? Let us know. Thank you, everybody. You're awesome. Talk to you soon.
Thank you guys.